أهلا وسهلا فيكم متابعينا بحلقة جديدة من برنامج يلا. ضيفنا لحلقة اليوم هو شخص ملهم في مجال التكنولوجيا والاستثمار في الشركات الناشئة، ياسر بياز، وهو خبير التكنولوجيا والاستثمار واللي انتقل من السيليكون فالي في الولايات المتحدة إلى المغرب، حيث أسس برنامج UM6P Ventures، وهو أحد برامج قسم ريادة الأعمال والابتكار داخل جامعة محمد السادس، متعددة التخصصات التقنية في مملكة المغرب. وبتقوم هي المؤسسة بدعم الشركات الناشئة عبر تأمين التقنيات والخبراء والاستشارات، بالإضافة للتمويل في قارة أفريقيا كما في دول أخرى حول العالم. لتعرفوا أكثر عن ياسر بياز وقصته الملهمة وكيف يقوم بمساعدة الشركات الناشئة في المغرب وحول العالم، تابعونا في هذه الحلقة من برنامج يلا. Thank you so much for joining us, Yasser Beyaz, on the Yalla Show.
Thank you very much. It's all my pleasure.
You were born and educated in Morocco. Tell us about your upbringing in Morocco and the moment you realized, I want to work in the tech world and become an entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, etc.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So many steps before you get to that point until you decide what it is that you want to do and eventually what you will become. So at least in my upbringing, I'm born in Rabat at 6 years of age. We moved to Casablanca. I've always had a knack and an interest in sciences. I was geeky, yet not nerdy. So what I decided to do is pursue 2 years in fundamental sciences. So that was math and physics. And so I started going to Northeastern University, where I started essentially having more understanding of which field I wanted to pursue in technology. So that was electrical and computer engineering. And so when you emerge or you complete your degree in electrical and computer engineering, especially at that time, there was, I was kind of ready for masters in 96. So in 96 was just about those early days of Silicon Valley. And so you would not even hear of Yahoo back then. You were talking about just like the earlier iterations of, the internet. And so, I mean, obviously, I go to Stanford. And so, after completing my master's in electrical engineering, I feel like there is something missing. So I wanted for something that resembled business. I had the choice, do I go startup or do I go corporate? And so I did work with a lot of startups, assisted a lot of startups, and realized that, I could learn more and be able to, have more diversity in a corporate career working with startups. And after the completion, of which not completion, you never complete a career, but after, you got to a certain point, I kind of reacquainted with Morocco after I came visiting, and then something just struck me. And so I decided to just flip and live the experience in Morocco.
It's really interesting and struck me what you said about there's no completion of a career or a learning. You're never at a complete place. You always need to grow.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And you were talking about growing. And, I have this kind of thinking or idea about, how children, preserve a lot of creativity, adventure seeking and so forth. They have a very kind of like forward looking type of attitude, which is not inhibited. They play, these games like Roblox or Minecraft, which essentially give them a universe with some physics, meaning how they interact with that world. And it allows them to be so creative. And so the games of life, between parentheses, that are most interesting, are those that allow you to create on top of them. And you're never done. It's like a Lego, you can just compose it in which way. And so as you proceed, through your career, and you have that passion, which is ignited by constant curiosity, it's always throwing you on something different. And so when it's not biology, it's physics. When it's not physics, it's chemistry or electricity or something like that. And you always find a new playground where you can flourish and contribute.
So now you founded UM6P Ventures. Your firm helps individuals with ideas and or new startups, providing them with different tools, funding, etc. That sounds amazing. Can you tell us more about UM6P Ventures?
Yeah, definitely. So UM6P Ventures is the ventures arm of University Mohammed VI Polytechnic. The role of UM6P Ventures is to extend the reach of education all the way through helping our candidates, our students and researchers to carry their innovation or endeavor all the way through to market.
Your main focus is on Morocco. and also on Africa in general, but you're also open to other companies from other parts of the world. But you also said before that Africa deserves its own blueprint for the development and innovation and entrepreneurship. Tell us about your vision for Africa.
The general, framework of, entrepreneurship is based on two things, right? So one is a program kind of layer, and the other one is a financing and funding layer. So as part of programs, we have what we call incubators that will work with a startup early stage, and then an accelerator that will work at a later stage. That's existent in Morocco and existent throughout Africa. Now in science, the word is completely different. The way it is done in the most advanced economies is that, massive amounts of money, and I mean, obviously, startups competing for that, money. I mean, in Africa, you don't necessarily have, those amounts of money. So let me just give you a sense. So for example, a venture capitalist in the US, in one of these startups, they would invest $300,000. And then there's going to be a subsidy or grant of $1 million. This is not something that multiplies right in Africa. What we have in Africa is youth and so talent. We have our labs are state of the art. What's a little bit more, kind of missing is the capital to take you through the industrial paces past your, prototype or project. And so that's why we, being part of the university system, allows us to tone down the need for brute force capital and, bank on the talent and infrastructure component. And when you're doing that, you're always succeeding. Why? It's because whatever it is that you're attending to startups is building competence and infrastructure locally.
I wanted to ask you, Yasser, what other MENA countries are you interested in working with, and how do you see the Abraham Accords peace agreements impacting entrepreneurships and partnerships in the MENA region generally?
All the countries, all the regions are on the table. So we are proud, again, to count at least a couple of startups in out of Israel throughout my career in Silicon Valley, and that counted some 15 to 18 years that I spent in Silicon Valley. There were some domains where, essentially Israel is dominant, like artificial intelligence, cancer cures, and, the likes in healthcare, and definitely agrobiosciences, agriculture, or the sciences, technologies in agriculture more at large. So we also have a Moroccan-born startup in the United Arab Emirates. We're talking to partners locally there, to further expand. We're talking to other partners also for other regions, like, for example, in Egypt, in Tunisia, and then working also with other, ecosystems pushing, through in Africa as well. Science and, development know no boundaries.
Yasser, I saw that in the company you founded, which is UM6P Ventures, that there are a lot of women in leadership positions, which is not a common thing. But I was really happy to see that. And I just wanted to ask you, why did you decide to do that differently?
Well, I don't know if it's different because, even now, the law in Morocco kind of requires that. And, what's unfortunate is that, it just so happens that sometimes, you see, for example, teams, institutions, or corporations that are willing, very, very much in favor of at least parity. And so I just took it upon me to make sure that, we were at least, parity level, meaning that Morocco counts more women in in its demographics, more women than men. And so it's only natural that any company should highlight at least that gender kind of distribution.
When I see someone such as yourself, Yasser, very successful and is able to achieve all these things while being a husband and a father, I wonder, how did you manage your time? What is your time management tip that you would give me and our audience today?
It feels to me that I'm always playing and that I'm not working. And so even when I go home, so I have two boys, and I mentioned one that is playing Roblox or Minecraft, the other one that is playing his game. And I too am playing my game, so educating myself, researching things, and just seeking those discussions. So that's why I may be kind of like overly invasive, with my passion with people around me. So, I just do things that I like, and this is totally kind of accepted. And it's, I accepted the
So doing things
consequences
that
of.
you like
Yeah, yeah.
is helping you with being time managing. How does that happen?
So, I mean, obviously, if you were to separate like friendship and work, I mean, for me, friendship and work are the same. Work and playing is kind of the same. And so I like, for example, to race motorcycles and so forth. So with my son, we go racing motorcycles. With the other kid, I mean, he's very much into computers and so forth. So I spend time, with him like that and so forth. So in a way, I just found that, my kind of, daily obligations, if you will, are not such obligations, but, kind of just another opportunity to just, discuss something, research something, play with something.
So you race motorcycles.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
When I was a kid, I sort of like grew by the beach side. And so even back then, anything that could pull me or push me, and I feel like I'm gliding over water or being pushed, in the air or down into water, I'll just do that.
Is it a must, in your opinion, for an entrepreneur to also be a risk taker?
Well, conventional old school type of business, maybe not. And there are some businesses where you want to be conservative, right? It's just because you're managing the policy of a country or something like that. But for an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to fail, obviously. And so the odds are against you. You're working against the odds. You're not working with the odds. And so you have to accept that. And so also, well, risk is calculated. Risk does not mean that you're going to burn, through your career. There's a lot of success that you can capitalize on, based on, if you can make sense of, good failed experience.
First of all, I want to say this is very inspirational, Yasser, everything you're talking about, and of course, everything you're doing. But now we are actually in time for our speed round. Are you ready?
Let's go.
What is Yasser's soft spot?
Animals. I have, kind of soft spot for animals.
What is your strong suit?
Just never relenting. I won't stop.
Do you cook?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I went actually from Boston to San Francisco, the first thing that I did the first week was taking essentially cooking. Well, not cooking lessons. That's sushi making lessons. And so, like throughout the period that I spent in San Francisco, I always cooked for my friends.
I actually love Moroccan food, Yasser. What is your favorite Moroccan dish?
It's couscous. Like you said, the Moroccan cuisine is extremely rich.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously, every other dish is more sophisticated than couscous. But for some strange reason, that one seems to, hit it for me.
I ask you right now to share with our audience the number one advice for young people today in this day and age.
Be curious. Take interest in things. And then, passion will emerge. And when you become passionate about something, you become very, very nerdy about it, meaning, you get more invested in it. And so when you get to that, degree of passion, it's the same for everything. When you're passionately in love with whatever, with a person, with, a sport or anything like that, then it seems like it becomes easier for you to, dress up a life or your life around that passion. So just find it, do not accept hindrance, challenges, just go past them. Everything else will just come, alone. Never make an excuse that, somebody else has not afforded you that. That's the only thing that is yours. So just, capitalize on it and use it, to drive forward.
Thank you so much, Yasser Beyaz. That was so inspirational. I hope to learn more about your work in the future on Yalla, and we'll be seeing you, I'm sure, again soon. 1, 2, 3, Yalla!